There is something that new traders really struggle with when this happens, and a lot of the time it can destroy your entire account. So we have to pay attention to that. We're going to get into that first thing in this video as we get into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta going forward, looking at AMC and GME, popping over to volatility, maybe checking on TLT. So we got a lot to get into. We're going to try to make it short and sweet, make sure to get you those weekly expected moves that those options are pricing in, and let's get into it. Starting off with the SPY, if you were taken off guard by this move, you need to start to pay attention to when you see those little divergences, because we were paying attention to if that 2 hour turns up, you always have that chance. Yeah, we could have rejected from the zone, but we didn't do that. We gapped above our sell zone where those sellers were lurking. We gapped above that, took them off guard. They sell those positions and we've started to squeeze. So you really have to pay attention to structure down here, because I'm not just saying this for fun, right? I do react in my trades when I see something like this, and this is a 30-minute divergence that led to a massive move. What kind of move are we getting now? Well, we are squeezing. You can tell that we are squeezing based on the MACD just turning down, and the price action is still just pointing up without getting any kind of pullback. That is overall squeezing behavior with your indicators. So what is something that really ruins new traders? And maybe it's a good thing for even successful, traders that have been around for quite some time. Thank you, Bruce, for subscribing. Sorry about that, guys. But what we want to pay attention to here is the fact that we are squeezing. When we are squeezing, it is dramatically hard to short, to find some kind of magical top, but we can pay attention to what we paid attention to in the past, which is when we see the structure to head down, when we see those divergences to head down. We talked about this on Saturday, the fact that we could end up outside of this monthly expected move. What have we seen a lot of the time over the last 4 months? I believe it's happened 4 for 4 for Nvidia. I might be in the market as well, but when you get outside of these monthly expected moves, you have a 68% chance to land below that by the end of the month. So it's very important to understand what these expected moves are, how they work, because that will really help you out in your thinking. Does this have any kind of reversal signal in it right now? No. Patience is going to be a virtue here. For the new traders out there, you really want to make sure to see signals in front of you that are proving what you're thinking, proving what you're willing to put your money behind, okay? Because what a lot of new traders do is they just say, hey, this is a rapid upward move, this thing has to fade, and then they take shorts, and then it continues to squeeze, and then they keep piling on shorts, and it continues to squeeze them, and the market maker uses that as fuel to head down. So be very, very cautious shorting these moves, and start to, if you're hurting from last week because you didn't react to this, well, then I would wait to see something like that in the future, right? This was a great trade, so why not wait to see if something like this forms, and then you can make a decision. That is something that will really help you out. So what I'm overall saying here is patience is something you need to practice. Reacting and not just taking a trade, risking your money on a thought, but having 3 to 5 reasons behind that trade, it will really help you out. Okay, so for the SPY, let's really jump into this now that we kind of talked about that for a second, and hopefully that was something that you needed to hear, because I know it's something that I have to remind myself of every once in a while, right? Being patient. And sometimes the chat, I'm like, oh, I want to take a trade, and they're like, nah, man, you got to be patient for it. And I'm like, that's awesome. See, that's what this community is for. For the weekly expected moves, for this week, we have 606.84 to the upside. We do have 589.54 to the downside. And for the daily expected moves, notice that on Monday, it's lying right around that 676 level. And then to the downside, we do have 595.62. What we notice is the implied volatility has shrunk dramatically from last week. The implied volatility for Monday has shrunk dramatically, but wouldn't this be a great consolidative day to turn back up into positive territory? We'll see if that is going to happen, because we have no reversal signals in here. This is very bullish. What you're really looking for this to actually fall down is a 2-hour divergence. And we talked about this on Saturday. If you need to see the structure that we think needs to form in order for this to fall down as people are getting more and more complacent, then go check out that video, right? But what we notice here is the 2 hour is very, very high. So does that mean this is a great time for me to take some kind of, Friday option to head up? Well, I mean, it would suggest that this positivity can continue, but more likely we are going to see this 2-hour roll over at some point this week. We are going to see us go down maybe to a weekly expected move and then curl back up into positive territory. This is a very positive trend. In order for this to just randomly drop, say next week, if this randomly dropped, it would have to be something really bad. It would have to be some kind of black swan, because you do not have any weakness in momentum. Here, we had plenty of weakness in momentum. Here, we do not. We got rid of all those signals. This is a very bullish trend, and I want you to be aware of it. We are still looking for those weekly signals to curl down, but in order for those weeklies to curl down, you have to see weakness in the 2 hour. We do not have that at this moment. So something that I'm looking for going throughout the week is, are we going to create some kind of 30-minute divergence right here, right? We come down on Monday, pop up on Tuesday, and then we experience that 2 hour pullback that pulls you down near that center line and curls up into positive territory to give you a simple swing trade. That swing trade could turn up, and then the next week we could go to a weekly expected move. Where would that take us? Outside of the monthly expected move. That's what we're paying attention to. So as of right now, the 2 hour would most likely need to pull back for an opportunity. But first, you really have to see some kind of consolidation or divergence on the 30-minute for that to happen. We're going to use the Qs to just reiterate the point here. Look at this move. It is very, very bullish. So if I'm going to just say that, oh yeah, this is going to drop, I would have no reason to believe that at this point. We're not outside of a monthly expected move. We're starting a fresh week, so we're not outside of a weekly expected move. We have no reversal signals on this 2 hour. So why would I think that this is going to roll over unless that is a complete guess? That is something that I'm trying to tell, especially the new traders out there. Something that you can learn is from us old guys out here, right? I'm 32. I've been doing this for a little while, and what I noticed is early on in my trading, I would take plays that I say, oh, this thing randomly went up and I think that's going to go down, with no reason behind it. I encourage you to be patient and wait for those reasons. If this were to drop, it would strictly be because of some kind of black swan or something that is not being displayed as far as momentum goes. This is a majorly bullish trend. The chances of this continuing are very, very high for the Qs. So we need weekly expected moves. 523.74 to the upside, 504.54 to the downside. We do have 517.21 to the upside and 511.07 to the downside for Monday. So these weekly expected moves, you land in here 68% of the time. So if we get outside of those and we have a reversal signal, it is very likely we end up back in that zone. If we end up down here and we get reversal signals, it's very likely we curl back up, right? We end up back in that 68% zone because 68 is bigger than 32. That's what we need to understand here. And this could just be a simple swing trade that comes below that zone, turns up into positive territory, and then you have room to go to the upside, and maybe you even head to a weekly expected move next week, and then that weakness forms. That's what we're going to be paying attention to. I just wanted to reiterate that for the Qs. Apple doing some good stuff here, able to get up to this level, and now we're starting to hold at that level, which kind of looks like a little cup and handle at that resistance point. So we can see the breakdown area very much so in this type of box, okay? And we reacted right up into that area, and we see resistance come in. So what do you want to do to break through resistance? You want to consolidate. So something we need to pay attention for Apple is it is still by that center line for the 2 hour. So if that crosses down, that can still test this low, go make a new one, but the environment of the market right now, we really have to pay attention to 30-minute charts. This 30-minute chart here, if we've gone up to a level where it'd be great to consolidate, we are consolidating, and now if we want to consolidate a little bit further, we could curl up into positive territory. Where is that MACD? You notice this one is not squeezing like this. You're not necessarily seeing a squeeze from Apple. This is more a cup that's trying to create some kind of handle to break to the upside. So pay attention to that for Apple. If you need weekly expected moves for any of the stocks that we're going to talk about today, please go in the link in the description and check out Patreon, where we will be posting a video talking about the monthly expected moves and an update video if any trades set up this week. Now, one thing that does have a slight reversal signal is Tesla. Tesla actually does have a flat 30-minute divergence, but look how far away that is from the center line. Okay, it's very, very far away, and you just have flat divergences. So the chances that this is just going to pull back and curl back up into positive territory for the 30-minute is pretty high for Tesla. Tesla still is one of the stocks with one of the highest implied volatilities. We can notice that what we were talking about was this would be where I need to react. If I had calls, this is something that I would need to react to. If this would have curled over, it did not. It just kept going, so no reaction necessary. Fantastic. You do have that divergence on the RSI, not the MACD at the same time anymore. So if this 2 hour does drop, it can be relatively significant. It has a high implied volatility. You could end up all the way down towards 272.41 to retest some breakout levels, to retest some support, some resistance that became support. So if this curls down, down, should I expect this has to flush completely and go into a negative trend? No, I don't have the best reversal signals here. We do give out those weekly expected moves for Patreon, monthly expected moves, all that good stuff over on Patreon. But what I wanted to point out here is the fact that this is so bullish. This is a very, very bullish move. This is one that we were paying attention to if that weakness was going to come in. It didn't. So that convinces me that this is a majorly bullish move, and we can easily see this continue for a few weeks here. And we need to be paying attention to if reversal signals pop up. We are starting to lean back towards correction at this point after that big move because the Qs were able to violate its all-time high, which leads me to believe there'll be a corrective move. We might end up in another bull run in 2025. So you have to be prepared for that. But we'll pay attention to reversal signals. And if a crash ends up happening, fantastic. We'll always be in the right move because we are paying attention to the signals. All right, guys, now we're going to get into Amazon, and then this is where you start to think, okay, now I'm seeing a similar trend here where I have very high 2-hour MACDs. Okay, so that means across the board, I should be thinking, okay, a 2-hour pullback might come. That might just be in the form of consolidation, right? I actually think Amazon will be a good one to pay attention to on the 30-minute. We'll go into it, but the 2-hour, if that's going to experience weakness, that most likely will curl back up into positive territory. You are very, very far away from the center line. You saw a great move, and now you might want to retest some of those levels in order to head higher, go grab some buyers. So there is opportunity that can be coming, but it might just be simple swing trades to head in the upward direction. So that's something I'm going to pay attention to. When this MACD gets down by that center line and curls up into positive territory, we should expect positivity. We should expect to take out this high, go make a new one. But I wanted to point out the 30-minute for Amazon because Amazon is one that has pulled back in some way. You see it's very controlled. So if that 30-minute is able to cross up, you might get a hint when that 2-hour is actually going to cross. You might see this pop up, beat that high, and turn back down. And what that would do is actually set up that signal. Notice if I am patient for just a little bit more time, something does set up. And that's the important part, is you have to see things that give you a reason for the trade. Just because I think something is going to happen doesn't mean it is going to. I want probabilities. I want reasons that this is going to go up or down. One of those reasons for the SPY was a 30-minute divergence that led to the 2-hour crossing, and that was a fantastic move. Now we're seeing all these things up, and 2 hours do not have reversal signals. So most likely, if Amazon is telling us something here, it will make that reversal signal and give you an opportunity. If that 2-hour just wants to cross, awesome. We can see if that swing trade sets up for us. There is going to be an opportunity in both directions if we pay attention to these signals correctly. And you're seeing a similar thing from NVIDIA. NVIDIA really coming down. So NVIDIA able to consolidate, which is fantastic for the stock, which means if this 30-minute curls up, you can see a positive move. But watch out if that makes a divergence because we might be experiencing a 2-hour pullback at that point. So if we see a look like this, it would lead me to believe that a 2-hour pullback is coming. That pullback could just be consolidation, right? It is going to be very, very hard to short this, and it doesn't mean that I have to short it. It just means I want to pay attention to what the signals are saying, and I know that the trend is bullish, so bullish trades will most likely be a lot easier. NVIDIA is showing it's still holding the divergence point between these levels, okay? You still are holding the divergence point on the RSI and MACD, you just got rather flat. So this could just be a pullback, and maybe we need to see a little divergence right here, right when everyone's caught off guard. What if NVIDIA actually does pull down? Because this one is closer to the center line on this MACD. Watch if NVIDIA pulls down, crosses back up into positive territory, maybe we get outside of a monthly and a weekly expected move, and then we end up seeing that reversal signal. That is what we really want to be waiting for. And notice the word waiting. Patience is going to be your friend, and the trend is very bullish. And do not fight this trend, especially in a squeeze, because they can just keep this thing going up for weeks and weeks and drain out everybody's money. AMD is a little different story, right? No reversal signals from the 2-hour down here to see this go into a positive trend, but you are building that structure just like we talked about. We talked about AMD going to the top of this zone and then seeing that 30-minute pullback, creating some kind of cup and handle. And that is what looks like to be forming here. So one thing to the bear side, if this 2-hour rolls down, if this pull down keeps happening, well, then you can test the low and go make a new one. That would maybe be a continuation of a bearish trend there because you're still negative on the 2-hour. A little different story for AMD. But if we're actually going to see this thing head higher, what are you going to see? You're going to see the 30-minute able to curl up into positive territory right here. You're going to see that curl up, and then You can watch out for divergences here because a lot of the time when you break through an important zone, I know it's a big zone, but it's really, really down from our all-time high here for AMD. So if we're going to see something positive, just watch if that creates some kind of divergence. It's a little bit tight in here, but you can notice that if we made that little divergence, that could send us into a negative trend just for a moment there, maybe to pull down that 2 hour. So if we see a 30-minute divergence like this, well, then we need to be paying attention to that 2 hour. If that 2 hour can turn down, then that would say, hey, maybe this is going to test that low and go make a new one if this move isn't very strong. But if that move is strong and doesn't make divergence, then we should expect to see that later on. So that's what I want to be paying attention to for AMD. Am I going to touch AMD? No, it's one of the stocks that is on my list that I really do not enjoy trading probably in the last like 6 months. Meta, a little bit controlled on this, so I don't know if the downward move is completely done. Maybe we need to retest that 5-day moving average. That blue staggery line is the 5-day moving average, which we retest that after big moves a lot of the time. So this could be kind of flagging here. So if I'm going to see positivity, that MACD is going to confirm. Is that going to be some kind of fantastic trade? Most likely not. Most likely that sees resistance at this 600 level, and then we pull down, and maybe we see a little divergence there. That's what I'm talking about here. I think we have the great opportunity to see 2 hour pullbacks. Now, one thing for Meta is you are closer to the center line, so this is one you have to treat a downward move very seriously because it is really close to negative territory for Meta, a little bit different. But if we react to this level and we get some kind of bigger pullback and then we end up curling up into positive territory, you would have this left shoulder in some way, you would have this head, and then maybe you go and carve out that right shoulder and you're able to turn back up into positive territory for Meta. I want to talk about Microsoft because on Patreon we said that Microsoft was giving us a hint here before the election. Microsoft was showing, hey, there is this flatness here. The SPY is creating a divergence and Microsoft is creating that divergence at the same time. So our weekly update video that I'm going to start doing every single week, I think it's very important in this environment for people to understand how to see these moves and when the opportunity actually is. So I'm going to be posting those weekly updates if opportunities are there. If they're not there, you might just see me make an update video and say the opportunities are not there yet, right? So if we get towards the end of the week, I might put that out just to remind you to be patient. I think a lot of people are struggling with that these days because those weeklies did cross. I can see why, but that's why it's important now. And now you know that lesson. Hey, I need to pay attention to when there are divergences because this divergence here, this is a double bottom. We even went up to this level, we consolidated and broke through, retested around that 5, ended up going higher to our zone. Now, a lot of these things are major moves that we need to pay attention to monthly. So we're going to talk about those on Patreon later on. But if this 2 hour crosses down, it's a little bit more positive than AMD. So that could just curl down, retest that 5, and then curl back up into positive territory. Microsoft is one to be a little bit worrisome of this month. If Microsoft experiences weakness this month, you actually can confirm some major divergence on the monthly scale. So if Microsoft actually ends up down by the end of the month, Microsoft is actually giving us a hint here. Microsoft is saying, hey, if I experience weakness this month, that could be more weakness to come for months and months and months. So right as everyone is getting complacent, you have to be paying attention to little things like this, little things like AMD that have confirmed this. And if Microsoft, a major stock right now, can do it, that would be a big deal. So we'll be paying attention to this for you. We'll be going over the signals and posting them to Patreon. AMC, we were pointing out the fact that there was 2 hour divergence. We were pointing out the fact that they do not want this stock to go up. So when that 2 hour divergence does confirm, I would be paying attention because that can roll over daily charts. One thing we did not do, I know this is a good upward move. I know we're curled up, but we're so negative that that would just be kind of random. We'll see if that takes off, right? Anytime that 30-minute curls up, you can see that take off if the daily is remaining curled up in positive territory. So what's one problem here is the fact that, one, this is kind of a good thing, right? We had 2 hour divergence, that led to a downturn, but it has not crossed over the daily. That is something that we need to pay attention to because this means that AMC could head down for a little bit of time if this does cross over. Has that happened yet? No, it hasn't. And if you look back, if you really look back on this and you pay attention to the last time it happened, how did this really play out? Well, we saw a good move, we consolidated, and then we were about to cross over that daily MACD. It rejected strongly and turned back up. So it really can be pretty random, and that 30-minute is turned up. So that's something to pay attention to. I'm just interested to see if that happens this week. Like if it happens the same as this time, that would be interesting to me. But am I going to bet bet my house on it? No. So what we need to understand is we got to get you those updated levels for AMC and GME, because that's when you know something crazy can happen. GME's been doing it for a couple weeks now. GME's done it 2 weeks in a row. So if that caused margin calls, you could see it next week. But AMC, the level you need to pay attention to for this week is going to be 478. 478 to see something crazy, and notice it comes in right around that high. So if we're going to see positivity here, something you're definitely going to need is the 2 hour to curl up into a positive territory, and you got a shot. GME is still doing that. It did something crazy 2 weeks in a row. We did something crazy landing in here. We did something crazy now landing up here. So is this going to cause margin calls? We'll see what happens with this, but we can just say this is a great signal for now. We had the retest of the 5. We swung back up into positive territory. That is a simple swing trade, and we saw something crazy. So hopefully that was able to make some money for some people who understand swing trading. But what we need to see here is the daily is turned up as well. That is a very, very good sign. And AMC did not curl down the daily chart. So these are good things, and we need to update that crazy level for you. So GME has a higher implied volatility than the past few weeks. We do notice that GME is at 28.21. To continue to see craziness, you're going to have to break through 28.21 for GME, and that's really all you need to understand for the stock is play good signals. If you see a breakout above that level, you have a good shot. TLT, we can finally see this trade we've been talking about actually proving to play out a little bit here. So we noticed that the 2 hour was able to hold those divergences on the RSI, not the MACD. And these are the looks that you're patient for, right? You're managing risk, you're scaling in, or you're taking longer out options, right? That's all I'm doing in this area. So I was hurt by this. This is the trade that I actually took after selling my volatility calls because I saw the 30-minute divergence on the SPY. I'm going to react. Okay, I'm going to react, and I'm going to look for the other opportunity. This was the other opportunity to get into at that time. So the 2 hour actually crossed back down, and that's a big problem because it was a big gap. So I couldn't necessarily get out of that position, but if that curls back up, I can just scale in again, and that's exactly what I did here. I still think TLT has a good chance to go up, but it does have a smaller implied volatility this week. We do get some data throughout the week that can affect this, but TLT does usually take some time to make these type of moves, so we'll pay attention to that for TLT, but it is suggesting that these yields are going to drop. Volatility on the shorter time frames. Now, I did update you guys with this level of 1504. 1504 is a level that I have on my other charts, and I shared it with you guys last week because after this major drop, we see this type of behavior, and I go, okay, 1504 would be where we could make some kind of 30-minute divergence, and that is what's happening now. We're not necessarily positive yet, still looking a little flaggy. Most likely this squeeze is going to continue, but we can see pops in volatility. So the 2 hour is going to have to cross up. That's already happened, but look how negative we are. So in order to see the daily scale, which has crossed down, which is what we said would happen if we're going to experience some kind of squeeze, and that's what's happening right now. It just happened on a big gap, which is kind of unfortunate because the opportunity was more the day before this actually confirmed on the daily scale. But we're going to need to see probably a 2 hour divergence before this can really come back into the market. If this is really going to be a top and take people off guard, or some kind of correction, which I think I'm leaning towards that for the most part, is this needs to see reversal signals. And the good part about paying attention to volatility, and thank you for watching this far, because this is what a lot of people need to hear. If you see the same signals for volatility and the SPY at the same time, if the SPY makes that 2 hour divergence, right, while the volatility, while the VIX actually makes the downward divergence at the same time, that is a good sign that this is about to play out, especially, right, if those confirm. Those have to confirm to really see that. So something we're going to pay attention to is if we get a little pullback in the market for volatility to bounce, then we see that subside and we see a divergence created on this MACD. And hopefully it is rather significant. The significance of divergence does matter. It's something that we talk about extensively in all our videos, the course, all that good stuff. But what we want to pay attention to is if this look is at the same time as the SPY. Because right now on the daily scale, you are turned down. Right now on the weekly scale, you are turned down, suggesting that this is going to continue. But some stocks are saying, hey, I'd be still a little bit cautious about the month of November as they are getting outside of monthly expected move for maybe some kind of correction. So the main takeaway for this video is practice patience, guys. Be patient. And I think one good thing is pay attention to the signals. We saw a 30-minute divergence, and that convinced me to get out of volatility positions and just risk my money in TLT because that looked like a good trade setup. Ended up going the wrong way for me, but I got another scale in there, so that's perfectly fine with me. So that's something that I'll pay attention to, is the fact that I need to always practice to be patient when I see moves like this. When I see the market is squeezing, I want to see great signals suggesting that this is going to see a bigger pullback, a correction, some kind of trap. That is something very important to understand, is you should not be taking trades based on, hey, I think this is going to happen. You should be taking trades on, hey, I have this, and this reason that this could come down according to momentum, according to my signals, and therefore I am willing to risk my money in this trade. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. If you guys like and subscribe, you guys are always fantastic about that. I look forward to streaming with you guys tomorrow morning, and I hope you guys have a great Sunday. All right, peace out.